Good evening. Welcome to it. This is the Private Property Podcast, where we provide you with valuable knowledge and information on all things property related. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or you're just looking for some expert advice, we have got you covered. All you have to do is tune in every Tuesday, every Thursday at 7 p.m. for tips, insights, and expert advice on all burning topics related to property. Because this podcast is brought to you proudly by Private Property. Remember, you can find your new home on privateproperty.co.za. On tonight's episode, we'll be exploring some of the new living trends emerging out of South Africa. We'll be focusing on centralized living, and joining us in studio to tell us more about this is Astrino Nicoloudakis, the Chief Investment Officer of Ascion Limited. But before we dive into this conversation, please remember to comment below and share your thoughts with us about today's show. You can join the conversation by using the hashtag find your new home on privateproperty.co.za or hashtag the Private Property Podcast on all social media. We'll be keeping an eye out for your posts, and we may even feature some of your comments on the show. Like I said, this is the Private Property Podcast, where we provide you with every little single bit of information you need to know about all things property. Like I said before, I am not alone in studio, joined by the very handsome Astrino Nicoloudakis, who is here to talk about living differently, because times are changing. I should not be singing, and I should be welcoming Astrino. Astrino, welcome.
Thank you for having me in studio.
How are you?
Very well, and you?
I'm good. Why are we shouting?
I don't know.
Did I started it, hey?
Somewhere around there. The decibel level's a bit high.
It's fine. It's because like sometimes there's load shedding at like stage 6, and then sometimes it's like loud and silent, and then
It is. It does affect the ears.
How is that going for you? How are you dealing with stage 6?
It's tough. I must admit, it does hurt the bottom line. It literally eradicates everything else as a generator cost. But I think it's even harder on the businesses out there that are dependent on electricity to provide a service to their customers and tenants.
Yeah. Speaking of tenants, you are the poster child for centralized living. Do you think this trend is going to take over now, property speaking?
It is. I must admit, if you look at
Are you just saying that though? No, do you mean it, or are you just saying that?
Let me elaborate.
Okay.
So the conventional retail, office, and industrial property portfolios in certain areas are dated. And when something becomes dated, it needs to be revamped, it needs to be repurposed, and it needs to be brought back to market with a new vigor. And that vigor is, at the moment, mixed use. I'll explain it a little bit why. Because then I can take all those facets of commercial and put them into one property. I can also bolt onto that residential, and people can actually live, work, play, store, do whatever they want in one area without having to drive around in traffic. People hate traffic.
I hate traffic so much.
And then one other thing South Africans hate, or want, is security. Now, how do you secure something if there's multiple property owners? Everybody has a different security protocol, and everybody has a different way to enter the property. Where when there's one owner in one building controlling the security, you hope you've mitigated a bit of the risk. And that's what the major trend in mixed-use developments are in South Africa at the moment.
Yeah.
So think about it. The States, I spoke about it the last time. They've sprawled out. People are going and standing behind these estates where you've got to give your ID. You feel like you have to give your bank statement before you go to visit.
A vial of your blood.
But you feel safer.
Yeah.
You feel that someone is looking after the security in that precinct, in that estate, that cares for the children, the mother, the elderly that are vulnerable, that are the prey of vigilantes. Or
The
individuals.
young single women who are like, I'm just trying to live my best life, sweetie.
100%. And that's exactly what it is. And that's why the trend is going to become better and better. The difficulty is conceptualizing it and having the vision of what the area needs for that mixed use to happen. So mixed use is not just residential and retail, make it a work, live, play that we have at the moment. There is ones with industrial and offices. So you want to have your office and your warehouse in the same space. But you don't want to have a warehouse and then some horrible office on the top. You want to be bringing clients into a P grade and A grade type of building.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully
you've
a
got this
soundproof office if your warehouse is there as well.
100%, especially if someone's making manufacturing something or noise control. So mixed use is a trend, and it's more and more becoming topical because property developers are trying to keep on increasing their yield. They're trying to increase the net asset value of the property and the actual valuation. And the only way to do that is to get tenants and multiple tenants into a building that a person can conveniently go into and address all their needs that they have. So that was the old shopping center, let's call it. But the shopping centers are changing. E-commerce is taking over. They are being attacked by many different technologies where they are taking the feet away from the actual shopping center and putting them into the logistics space.
I will not go into a shopping mall if I can just open my door and have someone say, here is your baggage.
What
There
for?
is absolutely no need for me to do that. Okay, so I'm hearing you. But now, obviously, you're going to talk
Have I
about
convinced you?
No, not yet. Because
Okay.
now there are obviously pros and cons to do with like centralized living and mixed use buildings.
Yes.
You've touched on the pros. I'm almost convinced. But tell me the truth about the cons.
So the one con is that you don't screen the tenant correctly. So what has happened in the past is a certain
Now I live with
multi-investor
Dexter.
sectional title. There's many investors with different financial requirements, and therefore some of them are desperate and they need to pay their bonds. Therefore, they'll take anybody who'll pay their bond at any price. If they'll give you money up front for a whole entire year, why not? You're not going to go and vet them and say, this is my name in the market. This is the Acropolis. This is the Ascion apartments that one landlord listed on the JSC controls and vets the type of individual that walks into this establishment. And even when you vet them, you can't get them right. But is active in trying to maintain a standard. And I think the one word that has come up in doing this mixed use is maintaining standards. And the standard of living that your tenant expects, the standard of living that you want to attract to your property.
Okay, so pros and cons aside, rules, regulations, standards, upkeep, disturbing the peace, not disturbing the peace. Centralized living is obviously a trend that is growing rapidly. If we look at places like the Maboneng precinct in Johannesburg, which I think is a Jonathan Lieberman and perpetuity development, would that be described? Is that an example of centralized living? Because the buildings there are mixed use buildings.
So there's a different fundamental that it affects that Maboneng and a lot of the other precincts that are doing the same thing. It's an urban rejuvenation project.
Okay.
So that requires the help of the city of Joburg and any city involved to try and take areas that have become dilapidated, that have been run down, and breathe new life into them. Get new tenants, give it a new lack of paint, make sure it becomes safe and secure. And the concept works very well. It has worked in many countries, but it needs the support of municipalities. And as we know, where our municipalities are at the moment, they are a little bit cash strapped. Yeah. So once that support gets pulled out and you don't have the security, it becomes a little bit, it's not viable anymore. So I used to love it. I used to go down to Maboneng often on a Sunday and enjoy the living room or the Soul Souvlaki they calls in the corner. It had, the concept was right. I think the support of the community, the areas, how it worked out,
can't function without.
Where mixed use is a lot more compact. So yes, it sprawls out, but the main fundamental for those type of precincts are urban rejuvenation. So you start seeing the decay go away and these new buildings coming up with new fancy bioscopes and containers
And high
warehouses.
prices.
But the prices is as a result of the vetting I was explaining to you earlier. It starts creating a lifestyle measure of an individual that comes into the area, which is going to be more conscious, is going to be more security aware, is going to have the financial means to look after the property the way it was supposed to be intended to be looked after.
Okay. But that would not be an example of centralized living, for instance.
So
without the necessary support that it needs to give you all of the guarantees of a centralized living sort of area, then we can't really.
You can. No, I would say it is centralized living. It is centralized.
Yeah.
And as it sprawls, it becomes part of the spatial development plan.
Okay.
So there is a critical mass of where this mixed use is. And when we do that, when we speak about it in property, the uses of an individual property, of an individual urban, of an individual stand, that's what we intended to do with that. So in the precinct that you're explaining is each building has got its different use, but it's not mixed in one urban up into the sky.
Got you.
Because you must remember, this concept is what built Dubai. Dubai was a desert 40, 50 years ago. Today, it's a sprawling metropolis that everybody wants to go to, and the in place for most Africans to go and spend their dollars. That they built it on mixed use. And mixed use having an urban or a piece of land shooting up to the sky, doing everything you needed to stay away from the weather. And they put marinas and they had a spatial development plan with these mixed use in them to try and promote occupancy.
Yeah. Okay. So, look, you touched on, the kind of now when we build in this way, the kind of tenant we can expect, the kind of care that will be taken around, the sort of standard of living. Obviously, there were communities who lived and quite well, in their own standard and ways of living there before this.
Yes.
So how would you say those communities are now affected?
It's actually an upgrade.
Okay.
So what happens?
In what way?
Supply and demand.
Okay.
So the more newer concept comes in, the more the demand for it.
Are they not priced out of the market? Are they not priced out of their own communities and their own homes?
They start becoming a bargain. So what happens is individuals start seeing this and saying, I want to be exposed to this mixed use, but I don't want to pay the premium of the brand new property. I'd rather go to the next door property that is in the same precinct and rent there, but be able to access this precinct or this property. It elevates the value of the property as a result because you're the surrounding areas. And that's what every property developer is trying to do, is enhance the surrounding areas and the rest of the property valuations will increase. It's not the easiest thing to do because you've got all these different egos that work with what their visions are. So visions, everybody has their own, and they become successful as a result of their vision. But it's very difficult for them to plug it into certain areas and work together to make sure they're secure.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Very easy said in theory, very difficult to execute in practice.
But at the end of the day, the value for the community is there.
Is there.
The existing community should, and the goal is for them to be uplifted at the end of the situation.
100%. And that is the intention. And who looks after that minority interest is, and that's where municipalities do play a role and town planning plays a role, is what was our intention when we first decided to let developers go and develop here? Was it industrial? Was it commercial? And there's certain nodes they've realized have degraded. Therefore, they need to change the uses. And those uses sometimes are mixed. And they provide you with certain town planning criteria to do that mixed development. And that's one thing that's also a con, is it takes a long time to get a mixed use right, to build it, because it's asking for different permission that was already given. And sometimes it does take town planners and council some time to understand what the vision is. But that's why Sandton is actually a success, as a result of all the property owners coming up with, and government coming up with it, or municipalities coming up with an idea of a spatial development plan that works for multinationals, that works for banks, that works with the lawyers and retailers, and it became our new CBD.
Yeah.
As a result of that. So that is a credit to someone who decided to create a rapid STP and said, guys, you've got a window for 5 years. Take as much bulk as you want, build as high as you want, as big as you want, and fill it up because you've got a study you've done together.
And the people will come.
Not even the people will come. They've already proven that people wanted to be there. They had to. Council wasn't just, that old concept is gone, that people will come. It's, Council saw the demand of individuals in Sandton. Sandton City is the most successful retail shopping center, one of them. Why? Because of the people and the landlords around it.
If you broke ground tomorrow, where would you develop your next mixed-use building?
Cape Town.
Why?
Cape Town's booming. The GDP is growing. There's a different energy in Cape Town at the moment.
I'm from Cape Town. That's why I'm asking you why.
I know lots of Cape Townians were saying that, and I have been going down quite a bit now, and I see that the seasonality of a coastal town has started to go away. It's becoming more commercial, becoming more business-oriented. It's becoming the go-to place for foreigners. You've got the airport that is international now that has direct flights from Dubai and London. You've got so many more things that we know as Cape Town in our youth that now I think looks a lot better. And there's a lot of articles of individuals semi-rating. There's a reason for that. There's just lots of things work. And I think also for us as a company, we need a national footprint. It's an important tick in the box. So to be proudly South African and enforce what the country that we've been brought up in love, I think Joburg and Cape Town are the two main cities that we'd like to be focused in.
Really would be interested to see this in Cape Town and how it would. I hope you do that soon, actually. Like, I'd just like to see it as a case study. Just as someone who's from Cape Town, it might even encourage me to move back. Jokes! What advice would you give to first-time home buyers looking to enter the property market today?
Don't overspend.
Okay.
Do your due diligence. And when I say due diligence, ensure you get certain experts to check the waterproofing and the leaks, and ensure you don't have buyer's remorse. Do not know at your first entrance to the property market. It's not going to be your first. It won't be your last. And don't be desperate. Find the one that suits you best.
How do you prevent having buyer's remorse? Out of curiosity.
You really ensure that your due diligence is very robust.
Yeah.
And you bounce it off experts. Go get people who do this for a living and ask them to give you advice on how the property has been maintained and whether or not it is. The other part of the due diligence is it in the area that makes your life easier? So is it close to your work? Is it close to your kids' school? Is it convenient? Is it going to make your life better?
Just the centralized living now. We're speaking about
now we're speaking about
the specific example of Sandton, what you've seen, what you're working with, the people around.
It's fantastic.
It is working. It is top of the pops. You would recommend it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry you came across.
Sell your car and come live with us.
Why must I sell my car?
Because you don't need to leave it.
I don't need my car.
How's that for
You should have
punchline?
labeled that. That is a punchline. You've convinced me. I'm going to sell my car. Thank you so much for joining me on the Private Property Podcast once again.
My pleasure.
Love talking to you. Let me know when you break ground in Cape Town. That is an exciting thing to look forward to. Oh, it's exciting. Try Muizenberg as well. Like, there are lots of people going towards that area. I feel like it would be... Anyway, we can talk...
Thank you for great advice. Appreciate it.
I think like that whole... that Muizenberg, maybe Cork Bay area, Fishhook side. You do really great there, actually. People are trying to move closer to the ocean. Anyway, yeah. We'll talk about...
Passionate about property, I see. Good.
I just paid for a wedding. I'm broke. I have to sell my car to pay my rent. Listen, Astrino, thank you. We will talk to you soon. Good luck for all of your endeavors in 2023. Can't wait to hear all about them.
It's great to be on your show, and all the best.
I am Sibs Malaba Matiela. This has been the Private Property Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you on the next episode. Bye.